This podcast is part of the Some Buddies Network. You're never alone when you've got some buddies.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today I've got my usual date with Density as we review Lisa's date with Density, and joining me as always, your co-host with the most, Mr. Density himself, Richie the Whiz Kid. How are you today, Rich?
Damn, I mean, I know I got a few extra pounds, but I didn't know we were going all out, and that brings a whole new meaning to the co-host with the most. I'm just going to stand up and walk away here. I'm very sensitive about my weight and height and color hair and eyes and nose, and no, I'm just kidding.
You'll be very happy to know then that I was specifically referencing your personality.
Awesome. If height was measured by hearts, you'd be the shortest person I know, Miles. But let me go ahead and throw it back to you so we can get this big train going. The man,
Choo-choo.
the myth, the crumb bum himself. It is Miles.
Richie and I are tackling Lisa's date with Density today, which originally aired on December 15th, 1996, which actually brings us to our next to last episode of the year, believe it or not. And actually, that's kind of fun just because our 150th episode of this podcast is next week, Rich, and we'll be covering the episode Hurricane Nettie, which is in fact the last episode that aired in 1996.
It's gonna get a little bit windy next week.
Because round numbers are important. Right on. All right, well, we have to actually get through episode 149 before we can dive into 150.
And that is not guaranteed, ladies and gentlemen, so stay tuned.
Anything can happen. Lisa's date with Density, though, opens the way a lot of our season 7 and 8 episodes have been without a chalk gag. It does, however, have a couch gag. I believe it's a new one. The Simpsons living room is drawn inverted, and the Simpsons come running in on their floor, which is actually on the ceiling. But after taking their usual seats on the couch, a few seconds pass, sort of Wile E. Coyote style, running over a cliff, and all of the Simpsons tumble to the ceiling, which is actually the floor.
I hope you stayed with us on that one.
That had a lot of twists and turns. That was hard to follow, possibly. I don't know. They fell. It was funny. Moving on, we open up this episode actually at Springfield Elementary School, where Skinner is preparing to have his lunch when Superintendent Chalmers barges in the room.
Skinner!
Superintendent Chalmers, what's wrong?
Nothing. I just bought myself a car.
Oh, good. This'll sound crazy, but at first I thought I'd enraged you again.
Skinner!
What?
Ah, you're getting paranoid.
I love how this brings it back to the steamed hams, because it's all in the, it's all about what they're preparing for lunch, and it's so nervous, and it's just a great, great pairing between these two.
I like it because, you know, Chalmers used to think a car was just a way of getting from point A to point B, and on weekends, point C, but that was the old him. The new him died the moment he laid eyes on his 1979 Honda Accord.
Which is a beautiful shit brown colored car. But the only problem, Rich, is there's no signature silver H on the hood, so how would one even know that it was a Honda?
But it had an H when he got there that day, Miles.
They discover that Chalmers' new cars actually had the H emblem stolen, and immediately Skinner is in a panic trying to resolve the problem. His first thought is just to take another H from a Hyundai that he found parked nearby. And I believe it's Kearney who leans out the window and screams at Skinner to get away from his car, which is just this really fun role reversal we have between the principal and the bully.
I like that Superintendent Chalmers talks about how he has a car and Skinner's like, oh, I don't. And Chalmers goes, that's why I have that superintendent money.
I think Skinner says something along the lines of like, I respect car owners and even hope to be one day myself once I pay back Mother for all of my childhood food and board.
Yeah, like and Chalmers gives him that really awkward, weird look.
Yeah, and then just totally shits on him by bragging about his salary in front of him. Meanwhile, across the town, we visit the Quickie Mart, where we see Homer is kind of acting a little bit suspicious. He's waiting for Apu to be distracted as he helps himself to the self-serve donut cabinet. Homer is doing something sort of sneaky. We can't really tell what it is, but he's chuckling to himself, and then he walks up to Apu at the counter, and he sets down his donut with quote-unquote sprinkles, and Apu starts to ring him up.
And these are the most delicious-looking sprinkles I have ever seen in my life, Miles. However, I think Apu's going to catch on to him here. A Mounds Bar is not a sprinkle. A Twizzler is not a sprinkle. A Jolly Rancher is not a sprinkle, sir. Perhaps in Shangri-La they are, but not in here.
So Homer is kicked to the curb. He is not allowed to take all of this amazing candy that he decided to sprinkle on his donut. But I really love that Apu still gives him his signature farewell.
Thank you. Come again. Something that completely stole the focus from me in this scene is in the background while Apu is talking. He's got the arcade machine that says nukes on it.
The whales?
Possibly. I mean, we'll get to that later. But the S on the end of nukes is hanging off the side of the machine.
Oh, as if it's like a sign, though? Like, instead of it being painted on, it's like actually like a banner sign?
Well, I mean, it looks like... I think it might be the way that it was made for the arcade. Like, it's so blatantly obvious where it's like hanging a little lower than the rest of the word nuke, and it's hanging off the side of the machine. So, like, I wasn't sure if it was an animation error or if it was the way the arcade cabinet was supposed to look, but I feel like somebody could have just ripped it off if they wanted to.
Interesting.
I don't know. It stole focus.
Well, what catches Homer's focus is outside of the Quickie Mart, the chief of police... Outside of the Quickie Mart, the Springfield police are actually in the middle of arresting Jimmy the Scumbag for using an auto dialer for a telemarketing scam. And I really love Police Chief Wiggum here. He's like, I really would have expected more out of Jimmy the Scumbag. He's gonna rot in the slammer for the next 20 years. Bread and water, icy showers, guards whomping your ass round the clock, and the only way out is suicide.
Auto dialer, you say?
I love that Homer listens to Wiggum's entire rant about the fate that Jimmy the Scumbag has in front of him, and the only thing Homer hears is potential money-making opportunity.
Classic Homer.
This sets up an excellent B-plot, we'll say, but for right now...
With something so not excellent, like something that's incredibly boring in real life, yet they find a way to make it
really
one of everybody's
fun.
favorite B stories.
Well, we've even been running our auto dialer Patreon ad, which is one of my favorites, frankly. Sorry if you don't like it, but it makes me laugh every time. For now, though, we're actually going to have to wait to see what Homer does with his new auto dialer, because we're back at the Springfield Elementary School, and Skinner is absolutely determined to get to the bottom of who took the H. All the kids are just kind of laughing it off like it's no big deal, and Skinner actually gets mad at this. I'll tell you something that's not so funny. Right now, Superintendent Chalmers is home crying like a little girl. Oh, I guess it is a little funny. The kids are lined up by their locker and completely arbitrarily chosen at random to be searched first is Bart Simpson.
I wouldn't look inside of there.
And Skinner, of course, is thinking that Bart is guilty, so he just doesn't want to be caught. But it turns out that basically Bart has booby-trapped his locker, so when Skinner puts his face in looking around for the H, he is promptly hit with 6 eggs.
Oh, half a dozen eggs? Where are the other half dozen?
And then, of course, on cue, he gets hit with the remaining 6.
There are the remaining 6. I think we'll just go ahead and set this aside for now.
So we see that every student has been searched all the way down till we're just left with one, Nelson Muntz.
Ooh, this is one of the few things that bother me in this episode. Why do you wait to check Nelson's till the very last one?
100% agree with you. They were smart enough to check Bart first, but they left Nelson for last. I mean, I think Bart is your number 1 draft pick is a good choice here, but letting Nelson go outside of the top 5 is just a glaring mistake in your bully draft.
See, I don't think Bart would be the first one that I would go to, just because, like, yeah, Bart will vandalize Alberto, but I'd taken the H off a car and actually, like, destroying property like that. The only time he's destroyed property is when he wrote his name in cement in Lemon of Troy that I can recall.
Or maybe cut off the head of Jebediah Springfield?
He put it back.
That doesn't count at all.
They act like it never happened. That statue looks like it's been fine since that day.
Well, regardless of how they made their decision, that's what ends up happening. And when they open up Nelson's locker, they're shocked to find, because Skinner even says, by process of elimination, we know that you must have the H. But then they open the locker and it's 100% empty. And even more odd, I would say, it's clean. Like, it's got a little bit of a glisten to it. And you would not think of Nelson to be the type to have a clean locker, unless the implication here is that he's literally never opened it. Ha ha! He gets his signature laugh in Skinner's face, as Skinner is actually, admittedly, disappointed. I mean, he actually curses in Skinner terms. Damn! Dang! Darn!
But he's banging the locker while he's cursing.
He sure is, and he actually dislodges a fake back to his locker. So Nelson has actually covered up a hole that seems to have a lot of swag in it. In fact, inside his locker, you can see a ball, a box of 2-star cigars, a blue shoe, just one, an earth globe, a basketball, a baseball mitten, a baseball bat, a shoebox, a football, a pile of books, a model airplane, another baseball, and the signature Honda H.
Not the Hyundai one.
Not the Hyundai one. And Nelson is caught red-handed. I'll also go ahead and point out real quick, in some of the other lockers that they searched, you could see that Jimbo had a large mace and some toilet paper. Kearney has a bottle rocket, and Dolph actually had just bunches of books, like more than you would think would be one that he would have.
Which is odd, considering how critical of Nelson he will be later in this episode.
I also think that's odd.
A principal's ransom and stolen goods! Well, sir, who's ha-haing now?
I don't know, but he's got lethal tuna breath. Ooh! But Lisa chimes in, of course.
Who does Nelson think he's impressing anyway, acting so cool all the time?
And Milhouse, who is very much in this episode in a very sympathetic spot, because unfortunately I'd been there a lot when I was younger, but Milhouse is clearly trying to buddy up to Lisa in a more than friend sort of way, so he tries to declare, "Not me!"
Oh, poor Milhouse. And it's funny when you can see other people doing it, and then you can immediately reflect that you have been that person before, and then you immediately hate yourself.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's absolutely the truth. Self-loathing.
It's the best kind.
The centric theme of my life. No.
No, we already have the theme of your life. I brought it up in like 2 weeks ago's episode.
Plentiful but average or something like that. Yeah. Also appropriate. For now, though, Skinner is about to hand out a very appropriate punishment. You see, first off, you're going to give back everything you've stolen. Then I'm sentencing you to 1 week of the lowest, most degrading work known to man. Janitorial work.
Ah, jeez, I'm standing right here, sir.
Ah, yes, Take a good look at him, Nelson, because that's where you're headed. Oh,
1 week is nothing for the crap he's pulling. That's a pretty easy. You don't have to be in class. You're going to be doing janitorial work. I mean, come on.
yeah, actually, that seems like something that would be good for Nelson in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
They do line up every kid in school to go to the gym where Nelson has blankets full of, like, bounty that he's being forced to give back. And he's told to apologize to each kid, but he kind of has an odd way of doing so.
Bite me. Cram it. You're dead.
And then my favorite, these are all just students, but then Miss Grabopple actually comes and gets something that was stolen from her back.
Get bent, ma'am.
I love the ma'am.
My guidebook, The Simpsons, A Complete Guide to Our Favorite Family, says that you can notice there is a lobster crate in there, and you can actually see the sea captain standing in line waiting for an apology. I did not catch that.
I didn't catch that either, but that's great. And makes total sense.
Sure.
Lisa is next, and when she approaches Nelson, she actually addresses him. Why do you have to be such a pain all the time? Don't you realize you're getting a bad reputation?
Don't you realize your butt sticks out?
And then Nelson actually kicks Lisa in the butt, and then, of course, follows with the ha-ha.
Well, also, he gets her to look at her own butt, because she's wondering, too, so... I don't know, there's a little bit of that bullying. I'm gonna poke you a little bit, maybe because I might like you in the future. I don't know.
I guess it's possible.
That's how it was back when we were kids, Miles.
Lisa's definitely not amused, though. It's not working on her.
Absolutely, it'll never work on Lisa. That's the Richie the Whiz Kid guarantee.
Back at the Simpsons home, we see that Homer is very excited to be setting up his auto dialer, but just like always, that stick-in-the-mud Marge has a few doubts about, the legality of this whole thing. An automatic dialer? Is that legal? I don't want you getting arrested, Homer.
I won't.
Or swindling our neighbors. And Homer just stares back at her blankly. But then he gets very excited.
Let me show you how the auto dialer works.
Yeah.
Change the subject.
I do love that he just never addresses it. I also love that we see when he's showing her as an example, the first number auto dialed is in fact 555-0001, and it goes straight to Mr. Burns, which just is a little bit of an added bonus that in this fictional world of 555 numbers, you would have to assume the very first one given out ever would have been 555-0001. So yes. How appropriate that it goes to Burnsy.
Ahoy hoy.
Greetings, friend. Do you wish to look as happy as me? Well, you've got the power inside of you right now, so use it. And send $1 to Best Darn Diddly, 742 Evergreen Terrace, Springfield. Don't delay. Eternal happiness is just $1 away.
$1 for eternal happiness. I'd be happier with the dollar.
One of the best lines. I probably legit have 6 jokes in here that I was very tempted to mark as my favorite. I won't say it yet because it's not, but damn it, this was good. I will also say, just in case you didn't know, Best Darn Diddly is on Patreon. Patreon.com/bestdarndiddly.
I don't think you brought that up at least once this episode yet.
Not even, yeah. I won't play the auto... Yeah, I will. I'm gonna play. I like the ad. You know what? I like it.
What about the one where we make fun of Canadian... Oh, wait, that happens a lot.
I don't think we actually have an ad for that, but maybe. For now, though, all Homer has to do is sit back by the mailbox and watch the money roll in.
But you're going to annoy thousands of people just to make a few measly dollars. It's nothing but panhandling.
Telepanhandling.
I mean, he's right.
He's 100% correct.
The best kind of correct there is.
Back to Springfield Elementary School, we see that Mr. Largo is preparing the students for a recital. He has on the board that they're going to go, I think it was Pop Goes the Weasel, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and some other nursery rhyme. And he explains that should there be a request for an encore, we will reprise Pop Goes the Weasel. Otherwise, we will file out quietly.
So glad I'm not in that band.
Lisa actually gets distracted, though. She's not really paying attention to Mr. Largo as much as she is the sight of Nelson helping Willie out in the schoolyard.
And that's how Willie waters. Now you take the who's.
The moose?
The who's! The who's!
And we see Willie is handing the hose off to Nelson. Is this right? Psst! And Nelson starts to spray him, of course.
Ah! Turn off the noozle!
The noodles? What noodles?
The noozle at the end of the who's!
And just like any 8-year-old or 33-year-old like us, we started giggling, and so does Lisa. And I do appreciate this because we talk about it a lot, but I like that even as smart as Lisa is and as impassionate and empathetic to others and all of these great qualities she has, she's still an 8-year-old kid, and watching somebody get sprayed with the hose is inherently funny.
I'm nervous because that Richie the Whiz Kid seal of approval is starting to look more like a Krusty brand seal of approval.
Man, you'll just slap your name on anything. As Lisa starts to giggle, she actually draws the attention of her class, and specifically her teacher, Miss Simpson. Do you find something funny about the word tromboner?
Yes, Miles. Yes, I do.
Cherry points out, though, that she's not laughing at tromboner.
She was looking at Nelson.
Lisa likes Nelson. Lisa likes Nelson.
She does not.
All of the students pipe in to chant at her, except for one, Milhouse.
She does not.
Milhouse likes Lisa. Milhouse likes Lisa. He does not.
Janie likes Milhouse. Janie likes Milhouse.
Ooter interrupts. She does not.
Ooter likes Milhouse.
And finally, I am actually going to say it's this moment. Mr. Largo cuts off the class and says, "Quiet! Nobody likes Milhouse." His parents were just divorced, people. Come on! Show a little bit of sympathy to the poor fella.
And the whole town knows about it. I think you would take that into consideration.
But yes, Mr. Largo just absolutely craps on Milhouse when he's down. But even more shocking is he gives Lisa detention, something she's very much not used to.
And he wants her to write, "I will not be a snickerpuss."
Which is such a it's just weird thing to have to write.
Yeah. My other minor issue with this episode is in this scene, because I don't see a little stepladder thing in the classroom there, and I want to know how Lisa is reaching the top of the chalkboard before she has the other way to do it.
Sure. When what you're referring to there, of course, is we see Lisa is writing out her "I will not be a snickerpuss" line by line with a single piece of chalk as she was instructed, but she's barely made any progress. She's not even filled up one full board, and there are still 4 empty boards to go. She even says, and I actually really like this, she says, "How does Bart do this every week?" Which is, of course, a reference to the chalk gag that we often see in the credits. I do also like here that Nelson pops by the window and points out, in a Nelson way, he calls her Brainiac, but he also does help her, and he points out that there's a little thing that holds 5 pieces of chalk at once, and you can actually get done 5 times faster by using that device. Now, that device is specifically for making lines of music on a chalkboard, which makes me wonder how Nelson would have found that out to begin with, unless all of the students do detention in the music room.
Or unless he had to return that to Mr. Largo recently.
Oh, that actually, I really enjoy your explanation. That's great.
You're welcome, Simpsons fandom.
But Lisa is admittedly impressed that while she finds Nelson's suggestion at least morally questionable, it is obviously very intelligent in its own way. I mean, it does make the writing of lines go 5 times faster.
Yep, but she's an honest person, Miles. She won't do that. That's got another seal of approval on it. She'll do it the right way.
She does ponder with it. She's not comfortable with it at first, but after her hand cramps up quite a bit, she does in fact use the 5 chalk tool to finish her lines 5 times faster. And then she spends some time staring out of the window, and she says the line, "He's not like anyone I've ever met. He's like a riddle wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in a vest." He sure is ugly, though. So why can't I stop staring at him? And then she realizes, oh no, I have a crush on Nelson Muntz.
She like the bad boy.
She does like the bad boy. I'll quickly point out that the line referring to the riddle wrapped inside of an enigma, wrapped inside of a vest, is actually a reference to a famous line said by Winston Churchill when he was talking about Russia at the outbreak of World War II. He referred to Russia as a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside of an enigma. Adding the vest is a nice touch, though, for The Simpsons.
Yeah, that sounds much more Russian.
So Lisa comes to terms with the fact that she's developed a crush on Nelson, as Nelson, who has been swinging at a beehive with a rake, manages to knock it down and then calls for Willie to catch before he sends it flying his direction. We actually only see Lisa and her reaction to all of this. It happens off screen for the most part, but we hear Willie screaming in pain, and Lisa actually gets a dreamy sigh as she watches her new crush torture a poor immigrant, which is very not Lisa-like in its own way. But that does, in fact, bring us to the end of our first act. We're going to go ahead and take a very quick break, but we'll be right back for Act 2 of Lisa's Date with Density.
Are we scary yet? It's a recap podcast about Are You Afraid of the Dark and more. Available for download wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can find us on social media at Are We Scary Yet?
Later, Seeds!
Greetings, friend. Do you wish to look as happy as me? Well, you've got the power inside you right now, so use it and send $1 to Best Darn Diddly. You can find us on patreon.com or donate to us directly on PayPal at bestdarndiddly@gmail.com. Don't delay. Eternal happiness is just $1 away.
$1 for eternal happiness and to support one of my favorite podcasts. I'd be happier with $1.
We come back for our second act and see that Nelson is at the table with the rest of the bullies, and they're just kind of goofing around, being bullies and whatnot, while Lisa and Milhouse sit across the lunchroom, and Lisa has a little bit of a confession. Milhouse, I've never told anyone this kind of thing before, but I've never felt this way before. I think I have a crush.
Oh, really?
And Milhouse tries to play it cool and just takes a sip from his milk carton, until Lisa says, "A crush on Nelson Muntz." And you get this great bit of animation where you can see milk just shooting all out of Milhouse's nose and face. And just to add insult to injury, Nelson actually calls him out, "Way to drink, Poindexter."
You like Nelson? But he's a creep, and he chipped one of my permanent teeth.
But I bet underneath it he's a sweet, sensitive person. Like you. And Milhouse sort of has a, flattered look, like, oh, he's in again, until Lisa follows up. I guess you could say, I want to bring out the Milhouse in Nelson.
But I'm all Milhouse. Plus, my mom says I'm the handsomest guy in school.
I like you too, Milhouse, but not in that way. You're like a big sister. Oh, it hurts. It hurts reading it. It hurts so much.
No, I'm not. Why does everybody keep saying that?
Would you do me a favor? When you get back to class, just give him this note.
Oh.
Please? And we can see Milhouse having a conversation with himself.
When she sees you'll do anything she says, she's bound to respect you.
And so he replies,
"Sure, what's a big sister for?"
But almost immediately realizes,
oh, I shouldn't have said that. You really feel for Milhouse in that little scene there.
This is painful. And in fact, I haven't even brought